Only great gaming that Steiner's Pub has is the 24 awesome rotating draft beers, Vegas' best appetizers to match. So join us in supporting your Las Vegas Aviators, Golden Knights, Lights, Aces, and the Raiders as we make history in Vegas. Steiner's, the Nevada-style pub at 8410 West Cheyenne, 1750 North Buffalo, and Las Vegas Boulevard at Windmill. Steiner's, I love this place.
Located only 4 miles from downtown Colorado Springs and just 10 miles from Pikes Peak, Hyatt Place Colorado Springs Garden of the Gods offers spacious rooms featuring contemporary decor with stylish furnishings, including divided living and sleeping areas, the Hyatt Grand Bed, state-of-the-art media and work center, a 42-inch flat-panel high-definition television that easily integrates with laptops and other devices, and complimentary breakfast is included in your stay. Hyatt Place Colorado Springs Garden of the Gods at 503 West Garden of the Gods Road. Visit HyattPlace.com. Open Road Radio, Monday night at 6 on KSHP, North Las Vegas, AM and FM, K29, 6HP, North Las Vegas, and KSHP.com.
The views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the program's participants and do not necessarily reflect those of station staff, management, and advertisers.
It's time for the most interactive radio program in Las Vegas today. It's time for Pushing the Limits with Brian Shapiro. Brian will talk sports, politics, entertainment, and anything that matters to you. Feel free to call Brian at 702-221-7283.
You want answers? I want the truth!
Now, Pushing the Limits, here's Brian Shapiro.
All right, what's up, everybody, on a interesting Tuesday. Thank you so much for joining us. Starting the show a little late today. I appreciate Doug Basham filling in for me for the first hour. I had other business to attend to, but glad you're joining us all here on this beautiful Tuesday afternoon in Las Vegas. So anybody who listens to this show understands that I have certainly more Republicans on this show than Democrats. I like a good-spirited debate, good-spirited conversation, and the guy we have with us in studio is certainly no exception to that. So his name is Alan Bigelow, and he's running for Assembly District 5 here. He is a staunch Republican. He's also a hero. I know he doesn't like to be called that because he's a modest guy, but he is a veteran. He served this country honorably. He's a former police officer and still a firefighter. He has devoted his life to public service. So it's always an honor and a pleasure, and somebody that I have a lot of respect for, Alan Bigelow, joining us back in studio. Alan, thank you so much for being here. It's good to see you. How are you?
Thanks for having me. You know, it's always fun to come on, and we always have something to talk about.
We do.
We seem to talk about a lot of the same things over and over again every once in a while. But yeah, it's good that I think that the biggest thing we miss in our democracy is that spirited debate. The fact that we can have a disagreement and still be friends afterwards.
Couldn't agree with you more. And I have a lot of relationships like with you and a lot of others that I might not agree with on everything, but I respect. And there's going to be a percentage of people that I'm sure you have in your life that maybe you don't respect. Yeah. There's people that I don't respect either.
It's not about, I don't think it's about respect. It's just not,
decency.
Yeah.
I agree.
Having a common decency about each other, to listen for a second and then think about it and then answer.
What a great segue. Decency. First of all, we just had Veterans Day. I hope you had a great Veterans Day weekend.
It was a good day. I was working, and along with being the firefighter, I still have to work those holidays, and my family misses me on them. And
you're saving lives.
It's folks don't remember those fact that we do miss our families with the holidays when people get to spend their days with the holidays, and it's a sacrifice that we make and our families make, and even going into the assembly. There's a sacrifice that my family will make with not having me around. And during the week, you kind of miss your family a little bit. You work long hours and you do the things you do. And
don't doubt it. Yeah.
So but you're fighting the fight.
Sure, no question. And as I mentioned before, you've worked in public service in the community as a former cop, and you served. So Alan, help me understand this.
Okay.
I want to dissect your brain a little bit here. I have a lot of respect for you. You're somebody who served this country honorably. You risked your life for this country.
Sure.
And a former police officer and still a firefighter saving people's lives. I want to go back, speaking of decency or lack thereof, when Donald Trump brought up John McCain's name. Here is an audio clip of Donald Trump speaking to John McCain's service to this country. Have a listen to this.
Supported him. He lost. He let us down. But, he lost. So I never liked him as much after that because I don't like losers. But Frank, let me get to it. He hit me. He's not a war hero.
He's a war hero.
He's a war hero.
5.5 years.
He's a war hero because he was captured. I like people that weren't captured, okay? I hate to tell you.
I think most people would find that despicable. By the way, he's called Americans who died in war losers and suckers. He alluded to General Milley being executed recently. He said he didn't want to be seen with veteran amputees. By the way, also a guy who dodged the military multiple times. As someone like yourself who served this country honorably, my question to you is, how do you find yourself to vote for somebody like that? That's the part I don't understand. Help me understand that, Alan.
You brought out some great points. But as I've said in the past, I am going to support the nominee. And it may not be Trump. It may be Nikki Haley. It may be Ron DeSantis. It may be whoever it is.
But if it's Trump versus Biden?
If it's Trump versus Biden, you already know I'm going to go with the party line on that one.
Okay.
And then I have our reasons for it. I think under Biden, we've gone in some directions that are unfortunate. Right now, people don't look at the United States as somebody that they have to be accountable to, and we are the #1 power in the world, and that's unfortunate. I think that when we have stepped into situations like Afghanistan, when we pulled out of Afghanistan, we left people behind. That's unacceptable to any soldier, any serviceman. So, those things have to be accounted for, and I'm all about accountability, whether it's, and we've talked about this, whether Trump gets convicted of a crime or not. If he gets convicted, he should be held accountable. That's just the facts.
If he's a convicted felon, would you still vote for him?
See, and that's the weird part about all of this, because he can be, and I've done a little bit more research.
I know he can, but I'm asking you.
He can be elected.
Understood, but I'm asking you personally. You just talked about accountability. If he is a convicted felon, forget about even all the despicable comments he's talked about. Let's be honest. People like you who served this country honorably, you would still vote for him. Now we're talking about accountability.
Well, and that's a tough question because I really haven't addressed it yet. I think, I might not vote for either one of them, because if I can't not be true to who I am, and if I'm going to sit here and say I'm standing up for accountability and neither one of the guys are accountable, then I'm not going to vote for either one of them.
And I respect that. So, Alan, you're a man of principle. You have a great family, and you know how much I respect you. That's the part that confuses me. I get the fact you don't like some of Joe Biden's policies. Now, listen, we can go back and we could talk about Afghanistan. We could talk about the fact that Donald Trump had virtually, according to Bolton, not me, basically the same policy of withdrawal as Joe Biden did. We can get into the weeds there. We could talk about how Donald Trump released 5,000 Taliban terrorists. But regardless of that, I get it. You're a Republican. I understand that. I respect that. You don't like Democrats. You don't like Joe Biden.
No, wait. No, that's not true.
Well, you don't like Joe Biden's policies. You don't like Joe Biden. Okay, let me rephrase.
Because I actually grew up with a good family friend who was a Colorado Democrat state senator. Loved the guy to death. He was a great mentor for me, and he served Colorado very well. It's not. I
didn't mean what I said. I misspoke. Yeah. I didn't mean that you dislike all Democrats. You don't like Joe Biden's policies. I get it. You're not a Joe Biden fan.
And it's a policy issue.
And I get that. But even with that being said, I'm trying to get past this because it's hard for me, especially with somebody like you who served. You've heard the comments he's made just about General Milley alluding to executing this guy. Not losers, suckers. Even if you like some of his policies and you dislike Biden, you're a man of principle. I know that about you. I just don't know how you find yourself or anybody. Listen, there's millions of people like you out there. You're not the only one. To vote for this man, why not just say, you know what, I'm not going to vote for Trump. I like Nikki Haley, like you said, or I like this guy.
Well, but that's what I said, and that's what I said.
But if it's Trump versus Biden, you would still vote for Trump.
Okay. If it's Joe versus Trump.
You hate Joe Biden that much.
I don't hate Joe Biden by any means. I still have an oath to this country, and he is still my commander in chief, and I have to respect that. But if it comes down to that vote, I'm going to be stuck in a hard place, and I'm going to have to give it a lot of prayer and a lot of thought, because both people have situations that bother me.
What do you think bothers you more? A man who's facing 91 felony counts, who's a liable rapist, who's disparaged people like yourself, veterans, or a couple of Joe Biden's policies that you might not like. What is more troublesome to you?
I think, in America today, it goes back to what's proven. And once things start to come out and be proven, then I'm going to make a decision on that. And until then, I really can't make an honest decision on it because I want to be as informed as I can be. Mm-hmm. But at this point, I've seen policies from both of them. When Trump was president, we were doing pretty good. We had a lot going on. I disagreed with some of his COVID policies. And again, I'm running at a state level. The federal offices really don't affect what I do. I look at them loosely for guidance, like I did when I wrote a ordinance for the veterans in Pahrump. I established that ordinance. It's now law out there, and it takes care of veterans that are looking to be interned, for their final wishes and things, and we made it very, very affordable. It's less than $500 to be buried if you're a veteran in Pahrump.
Well, that's obviously a good thing, and I appreciate what you do to help the veterans. Going back to what you said about Trump, record deficit, the spending was out of control. I don't blame Donald Trump for COVID, but I will say his response to it was a joke.
I don't think anybody's going to disagree with you on that.
15 cases down to 0. It's going to be gone by Easter. I only hire the best people. We see all the attacks on Dr. Fauci. So I think he did. This is okay. I'm going to speak in very general terms here. You can tell me whether you agree or not. Thought Obama left Donald Trump pretty darn good economy. Donald Trump, for the most part, did a good job not screwing that up. But when you look at, and I'm not saying none of his policies worked or he did everything wrong, but when I look at some of the important moments in his presidency in 4 years, besides the deficit, besides attacking our democracy, what took place on January 6th, the division in this country.
Do you think that's why Mike Pence stepped out?
Stepped down?
Yeah, why Mike Pence stepped out of the presidential race?
I think he stepped down because he knew this probably from the beginning. He had absolutely no chance to win. I think Mike Pence has no backbone at all. I think he waited way too long.
Yeah, I really wasn't impressed in his first debate. I don't think you were either.
No, I think he's a stiff. I think he's a phony. He'll never become the president of the United States. He might never hold office ever again. Both Democrats and Republicans don't like him. But the problem with Mike Pence is the problem with the Republican Party today. There are so many people out there, they waited too long. They brown-nosed Donald Trump for years and years, and they waited too long for any opposition. There are still a lot of Republicans out there that are afraid to speak the truth about Donald Trump, like the stuff that Chris Christie is doing today. A lot of Republicans are still afraid to do that. Even Nikki Haley tiptoes. Now, I think Nikki Haley is a decent human being, right? I don't have anything personal against her, and I actually think she's very reasonable when it comes to a lot of the issues that Republicans care about.
Yeah, you and I have talked about her before,
but
she does have some really good policies.
Right, but when I hear somebody like Vivek Ramaswamy say that Donald Trump is the best president in his lifetime, I just think Vivek Ramaswamy is a snake oil liar is what he is, and I just think it's an embarrassment. I think Ron DeSantis is beyond awkward on a debate stage. That's why his numbers have continued to drop, and it's why Nikki Haley's numbers have continued to rise. All right, so one more Donald Trump question, and then we can move on to some policy and some other stuff. But again, I don't mean to belabor the point.
We talk about it every time I come on. We always talk about Trump.
I can't get over this. I can't get over the fact. That's the thing. And I say this again because I respect you. You're a man of moral character. You're a good family man. You risked your life for this country. I can't get it past me
and you know
that you would support a guy who says these disparaging things about people like you, and he is a proven liable rapist in a courtroom, and we know all the legal problems he has, and we know the despicable... His sister died yesterday. He didn't even mention it on Truth Social. He spent the time attacking Democrats. You're a man of moral character.
I think I definitely probably would have at least acknowledged.
You think?
I mean, we have a gentleman who has been a very, very large contributor and supporter here in Las Vegas, and I don't want to mention a name, but he's from a solid family that just recently died, and and I didn't ever get the opportunity to meet him, but the guy is amazing, and he was mentioned in several posts yesterday, for, a memorial service. It's in, having that kind of dedication and service to the people of Las Vegas and Nevada, right. And I think, character-wise, it comes out who you are. You get out on a campaign trail, it comes out. I recently got engaged, and I'm tickled to death about that. And
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. She is a huge supporter. I mean, like over the top. She's like
Of Trump?
No, of me.
Okay,
Of me.
Good.
She goes.
She should be.
She goes. If Brian talks bad about you, I'm going to take care of him. Just kidding. Not true. But but she has that kind of passion in it as well. And
there's nothing wrong with passion.
So she has been very supportive, and I rely on her explicitly on so many different things, so many different levels, whether making sure my dogs get food or whatever the case is, because this is running a campaign is full time, working a job is full time, taking care of a family is full time. So I got 3 full-time gigs going.
You're a busy man, and I get that.
And so when it comes to federal issues, whether Donald Trump's in court or Chris Christie's bashing him, I don't give it a lot of attention right now because I just don't have the bandwidth. I'm more concerned about things like in Las Vegas, we had a teenager killed last week by a gang of thugs on a high school parking lot. How come we aren't addressing that?
Well, I talk about gun violence and violence in general.
And it wasn't even gun violence.
Yeah,
it was these guys just ganged up on him, beat him down, and kicked
horrible.
him in the head and killed him.
It's horrible. And listen, I do have some criticism at times for Democrats when it comes to violence in this country. What I'm not going to do is say that Democrats are the reason why we have all this rampant violence throughout the country.
And I couldn't say that either.
But in San Francisco and in certain areas, there's no question that the Democrats are lax on crime. There's no question about that.
Well, and there's programs in the schools that are just not working.
Right.
Restorative justice in Nevada is not working.
Yeah.
When I went to school here, and this is, we're dialing a Wayback Machine a couple of days. We had a school up on Angel Point on Mount Charleston. If you got in trouble and you were a problem child, that's where you went, and you were there kind of like summer camp until you got your act straightened out.
Sure. Listen, talking about education is by the way, we just had a Republican debate here, Senate debate, and they didn't even talk really about schools. But let me ask you this question to dissect you, since we're now getting off of the Donald Trump stuff. As a Republican today in 2023, what is your biggest criticism for the Democrat Party? Like, if you had that one issue that you said, man, this is why I could never be a Democrat, this is why I could never vote for a Democrat, what is that issue to you, Alan?
Overtaxation.
Overtaxation.
In this last assembly round, they wanted to remove the cap on our property taxes and continue to raise it. I think the number was like 3% or up to 3%.
Am I wrong, though, when I'm saying that for the most part, Republicans are the ones that are giving the wealthy, the top 3% in this country, the tax breaks, I thought?
Tax breaks are
tax breaks for the rich.
Tax breaks are there for you, everybody that can use them to use them.
Then why are Fortune 500 company CEOs getting all these tax breaks and all these loopholes? And it seems, and you tell me if you disagree, it seems like the Democrats are the ones that are trying to at least say it. We want the rich to pay their fair share. It appears to me that a lot, including Donald Trump, tax breaks for CEOs and the top 1% of people in this country. That's my criticism when it comes to taxes for Republicans.
Well, we just saw in the assembly the Christmas tree bill that got passed. And right now there's, I think it's up to 7 or 8 of the Democrats that are stepping away from the assembly because of that specific bill, where they had put money into a charity that they were a board member of or a paid member of staff or something like that. So I think it's on both sides.
Well, obviously that's wrong.
And so I think we get into both sides of that fence a little bit. I'm all about transparency and making sure it's seen.
So we've established
one of those things. Let me in the track.
Yep.
On the school issues, one of the issues I want to see happen is I want to see a 17-county external audit. That audit's going to show us where the money's being spent. And I'm going to tell you right now, I agree with Speaker Yeager when he says Superintendent Jara, I don't want to be disrespectful. He's got the job. Superintendent Jara should step down. He's been in there for 5 or 6 years now, and schools haven't changed.
Well, listen, you're not going to hear an argument from me on that front.
And
the Clark County School District is an embarrassment, but I think education.
So we have to start doing things to make it happen.
I agree. I think education.
I'm in the middle of writing a bill draft request to add an additional requirement for the 9th grade. What it will do is bring out some common sense things into these kids that will open their eyes a little bit, make them a little bit more competitive. I know John Petrick is working on some school bills as well. We're trying to put those things together because in the course of 4 years, if we're able to accomplish it, and it's going to take help on both sides. Democrats got to kind of, reach across the aisle and say, yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Because these are going to be the things that bring the school districts, all 17 school districts, back up from 48, 49.
I'm with you on that.
Into about 35 or 36. But we can do it in 4 years.
I'm with you on that. I don't disagree.
So we got to work with everybody in there.
No question.
And if it's a matter of sitting down and having a cup of coffee and going until 72 hours or 96 hours or whatever we got to do to debate it to make it happen, we got to make those things happen because our kids have to have it. The governor's bill would have given additional security for that kid last week, so he wouldn't have died.
This is an important issue, and I wish more Republicans would be a little bit more specific like you are and stop talking about children being indoctrinated in critical race theory, which I think is a bunch of nonsense. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about other Republicans out there that'll talk about critical race theory. And then when I ask them, can you name me one teacher in the Clark County School District that's teaching critical race theory, they fumble over the words and they can't do it.
Well, the teachers don't even feel safe in their own classrooms right now.
Right.
2 years
that's
ago, we
parenting,
had,
right? That's security and I agree. It's disgusting.
Yeah, why would a teacher in her own classroom at El Dorado High School get raped?
Horrible.
Over homework.
Horrible.
Give me a break. We got to put the power back to the teachers.
And we got to pay our teachers well.
And we got to take.
Sure.
We got to make sure the parents have the right to know what their kids are being taught. Make sure the kids are accountable to their parents and the teacher because it's a partnership in there that has to happen. I know. I went to school with my kids. Mm-hmm. I was in the classrooms. The teachers knew my name. They had my cell phone number. If something happened, call me right now. I will stop what I'm doing and come right down there, and we will solve this right now.
I think everything you're mentioning is certainly I respect that, and I'm with you. I'm on board there. I don't think that you would make that claim, but there's a lot of people on the far right that make the claim that our teachers are indoctrinating our kids. Out of the 300,000 plus teachers across the country, could you probably find a handful of teachers that are maybe saying some inappropriate things? Sure, and I want those teachers to be fired. But the idea that our children are being indoctrinated because a teacher might say it's okay to be gay is absurd to me, and it's blasting homophobia. I think that's what it is. Let me ask you this, switching topics here. I had Bill Conrad in studio, who's running for senator. Again, somebody like yourself who served this country honorably. I have the utmost respect for him. However, his opinion is that people that are transgender should not be able to serve in the military. My opinion on that, and he used the term, it brings bad morale. Now, all due respect to Bill Conrad, I find that opinion to be a bigoted opinion. I'm not saying that transgenders, that we should pay for their transgender surgery. That I am not for. However, I don't care what's between your legs. If you're willing to say, I'm going to risk my life like you did and serve this country honorably, I find that to be a bigoted view by Bill Conrad. I want to know your opinion on that. Do you feel that transgenders should be allowed to serve just like you did?
I think if somebody's willing to raise their hand, that they should be able to serve. I have numerous friends that are gay and bisexual or I've met transgendered folks. I don't have any friends that are right now that I know of. I can be wrong, but if you're willing to step, let's stretch this out for just even a little bit, just to kind of pick an example. Let's say you're an Israeli and you're transgendered and you want to go support, your country and go fight right now. Who's going to tell you no? I wouldn't. I'd be like, here you go.
Right.
Here's a gun. Here's how you shoot it. There's some targets. Go practice. Don't shoot our guys. Shoot the bad guys. And I'm not saying anybody's a bad guy, but, there's the opportunity. There's the litmus test in that.
So you disagree with Bill's position?
I would disagree with that.
Yeah. I think most Americans would.
I think in the whole scope of it, though, there is a need of recognition because obviously there's definitely biases in the military for certain directions, and it would need to be addressed, and it would need to be something that is coached. And as a leader, I had to make sure my soldiers were taught equal opportunities legislation and the rules involved, and that there was no you're, in the military, you put on a green uniform, you just become green. There is no other color.
Right.
That's it.
I'm with you. If you're willing to risk your life for this country, I could care less what your sexuality
Yeah.
is. By the way, I could care less what your sexuality is, whether you're serving or not. That's just me. But especially when you're willing to risk your life for this country, there's no question about that. Why is it, you think, Alan, that Republicans have lost 6 of the last 7 popular vote presidential elections? Because I certainly have my theories and my opinions on that. Why? Why do you think Republicans had such a bad 2022 midterms? Why did they have such a bad night last week? Why?
I think what happens, and I've addressed this to GOP leaders, my opinion in this one is we don't answer back. When an issue is brought out, and I'm just going to pick something obscure. Let's say, we're going around saying the sky is green, and we know that it's blue. But we don't answer that question. We just move on to something else. Mm-hmm. We got to answer those questions. We got to stand up. We got to say, no, it's blue. You've heard the story about, the lion in the jungle, and the tiger and the monkey come up to him, and the monkey's trying to convince the tiger that the grass is purple, and the tiger tells the lion, he says it's purple, but I know it's green, and the whole story about how the lion goes, well, you're the dummy for listening to him.
I think I could read between the lines with what you're saying. 6 out of 10 Americans believe in the woman's right to choose, yet Republicans want to die on that hill, for lack of a better term. So I agree. I think I understand what you're saying. What do you make of the new GOP House Speaker, who it seems like, by the way, was part of trying to overturn the outcome of the 2020 election, struggles to be able to, it's not that he even struggles, he makes no effort to separate church from state. I don't care what people do in their own time when it comes to their religious beliefs. People can believe whatever they want to believe in. They could believe in the tooth fairy for all I care about. Mm-hmm. Don't care. But there's a reason why that, the saying is separate church and state. Your religious belief should not interfere with policy making in your politics, yet we see House Speaker Johnson kneeling in the House chambers talking about God every second of every interview.
But
what do you make of that?
His right as an American to do?
It's not your right as an American to not be able to separate church from state. And after his job, when he goes home, he can do whatever the hell he wants to do. He can pray to God every second of every day that he's not working. I have a problem with people that are not willing to separate church from state. He's not willing to do that, and he makes, in his career, decisions based on his religion. I have a serious problem with that. What are your thoughts on that?
We have a unique saying over the dais in Congress. It says, "In God we trust." It was placed there in 1962. I think it was 62, as a counter response to Russia, saying that there is no God. So, as a nation, we acknowledge it. And everybody sees it. Now, everybody can choose whatever religion they want to. That's the beautiful thing about our nation. But we base our decisions on what we're taught. If you look at the jihad, the Hamas, they're basing their decisions on what they're taught in religion. Go kill the infidels. Mm-hmm. Go chop the heads off of babies. And that's exactly what they're doing. If we don't have some standard of guidance, we're just as bad.
I think having a standard of guidance is very important in everyone's life. And I don't have a problem with that. What I do have a problem with is people treating people differently because of their religion. For example, I'm just using it as an example.
Sure.
Speaker Johnson is clearly anti-gay marriage. He once was involved in gay conversion therapy. That is based on his religious beliefs, which I believe are bigoted. I don't care what your religion is. I don't care if you're Christian, Jewish, whatever the hell you are. If you treat somebody differently that is different from you, that is not breaking the law, I have a serious problem with that. Mm-hmm. There's nothing wrong with being religious. There's nothing wrong with believing in God, go to church, go to synagogue again. I don't care about that stuff. I just have a problem with a man who wants to, go on that mountain and talk about his religion and then wants to overturn the outcome of the 2020 election, and that's okay, and attack our democracy and forget about all the people that voted. But then when it comes to my religion, I have this moral high ground. I just have a serious problem with that. I want people to treat everybody else as equals, regardless of what your religion you're from. Listen, I've given plenty of, I'm not going to say attacks, but criticism of some members of the squad, whether it be Rashid Tlaib or Ilhan Omar, particularly with their hateful rhetoric towards the state of Israel.
Sure.
I say the same thing in regards to Speaker Johnson in different terms. You know, this is a guy who has some extreme views that are far to the right, and he's a right-wing evangelical, and I just feel like that's dangerous for the country. You can believe whatever you want to believe in on your own time. I just don't want to see that in your policy making. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I read a King James Bible, and it's the Bible that I choose to read because it's the one that makes sense to me. My education is at a level where and I'm not bashing anybody's education by saying that. It's just where I understand it the best personally. And it teaches me that the lessons in there are about loving people.
Right.
They're not about spewing hate. They're not about saying, you're wrong in everything that you believe. Because I have family that's gay. I have family that's tall, short, everything in between.
You think it's a sin?
What's a sin?
If you're a homosexual, is that a sin?
I think that you have the right to love who you choose to love. I think that is something that you have to come to your own conscience.
But you don't
thoughts.
judge somebody else and say you're
I
a
don't
sinner.
Judge. No, I can't.
Isn't that what some of these people are doing? Not you?
Well,
like a Speaker Johnson?
But that's not what I'm taught in the Bible.
Right.
I'm taught, love the sin or hate the sin. Okay. Is it a sin to eat too much? Is it a sin to want to have tons of money? Is it a sin to
can I differentiate
skip
that? Tell
school?
me if you agree or not.
Sure.
Those are all choices, right?
Sure.
Like it's a choice if you eat too much, which, by the way, I do every day.
You don't look like you look good.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. But
maybe it's the suit. That's what it
maybe
is.
that's what it is.
Yeah.
I think in most cases, if you're gay, it's not a choice. You were born that way. Now, could there be some exceptions? I'm sorry, I don't think Richard Simmons was born straight. Don't think Ricky Martin was born straight. And there's nothing wrong with being gay. I just feel like there's a fine line between making a decision of not going to school or eating too much, and then the body that you are born into. I don't think it's many people's choice. And by the way, why would it be your choice in this country when still people, and we've come a long way, but a lot of people in this country still treat people differently, and there's still discrimination. I wouldn't want to be gay living in this country.
Well,
I wouldn't.
You wouldn't want to be gay living in Gaza either.
Well, that would be worse. I agree with you, but I wouldn't want to be gay here either because I feel like people, in some cases, not you, but people treat people differently because their sexuality might be different from mine, and I don't like that. And I just feel like with Speaker Johnson, and I'm not talking about every Republican, there are plenty of Republicans out there that are okay with gay marriage, right? I'm talking about the extreme far right. And again, I'm going to use this term, MAGA Republicans that are anti-gay, anti-LGBT community, so on and so forth.
Where people choose to live their lives is their choice. That's one of the great freedoms of this country. I couldn't imagine being in Gaza in that world. I couldn't imagine it being many of the Arab countries like that. Even Russia even. I think we're really blessed to live in America, and Nevada specifically is one of the freest states in this country to do anything. And I think that's a blessing doubled up. We have probably the most diverse population in this city that any other city in the world, because we have everybody under the spectrum here. We have, the 82nd Airborne, for example, they called it All-American Brigade because they had somebody from everywhere. Las Vegas has somebody from everywhere, just like that. Veterans Day, I was stationed at Fort Bragg for 3 years as part of a Corps Artillery group, and we supported the 82nd Airborne. That was our mission.
Sure.
So I think coming from here and going there and then coming back and appreciating what we have is been one of my greatest joys.
Alan, there's no question that we have more freedoms here than just about any other country in the world, and I would never never doubt that for 1 second. As someone who leans to the left, who's an independent, but I'll be the first one to admit I lean to the left on a lot of issues. My biggest criticism with Republicans today, I have quite a few. My biggest criticism is, where are your solutions? I hear about gas prices.
I had a hunch you were going to go there.
Well, I hear about gas prices, right? I hear about inflation, and I hear about all these issues that Republicans have with the Biden administration. And by the way, Joe Biden's passed some pretty darn good bills as well with bipartisan effort to do so. But I hear about all these complaints about the Biden administration and Democrats. I see it on a presidential debate stage. I don't hear about any solutions. Vivek is a nut job, and he wants to give Vladimir Putin some land that he stole from Ukraine.
Yep.
I hear these Republicans nonstop, like Ron DeSantis, saying, I'm here for you. I'm here for you. And I hear from these Republicans, let's just deport everybody. Let's put them on a plane to Martha's Vineyard, and let's own the libs. I don't hear reasonable solutions to gun violence. I don't hear more guns. I hear from Republicans, not less guns, more guns. I don't hear about any replacement plans from Obamacare, affordable health care. This is just me speaking now. If I'm gonna, and by the way, I voted.
You ready?
I voted for 8 Republicans in 2022.
Okay, here you go.
I'm getting more and more frustrated with
Here you go.
Republicans.
I'm gonna give you some some stuff.
Let's hear it.
All right. We're gonna. Of course, you know I hate taxes. So
do I.
Yeah. So my plan is really simple on that. We're going to fix the school system first, because what's going to happen, we fix the school system, we start bringing it up. And I've talked to teachers, I've talked with a lot of different people. Once the school system gets fixed, businesses will want to come more. Because when you take a Fortune 500 company and you say, yeah, you know, our schools are 49th, 48th, you know, they're going to go, what'd you say? Yeah, and they don't want to come. All right, but now,
when you say fix the school system, what specifically do you want to do?
we're going to start with an external audit.
Okay.
I have a bill draft to add a mandatory class that's going to expose kids to things that they need to be exposed to
Like?
succeed. You ever ask a kid to balance a checkbook right now?
Good luck with that.
All right.
Ask me to balance a
that's
checkbook.
part, yeah. Well, then that's part of it. You got to
Right.
understand what a budget does.
Basic right.
life skills.
Sure.
Okay.
I like that.
You know, John Petrick wants to bring in teaching music, a language, and trades. Those 4 things will bring us up out of the 40s and into the 30s.
Are you okay with teaching kids what slavery was and what it meant?
Absolutely.
Okay, so
There-
you're
there
okay
is
with
no
that? Nothing
reason
wrong with
to
history.
erase
Okay,
our
good.
history. There is no reason to erase.
Then
we
Alan,
need to understand that was different people.
Alan,
and that was
I appreciate
different,
that.
You know,
I
we
like
need-
everything you've listed, but Alan, you know why I'm bringing that up.
Well, let me finish the
All
plan
right,
here.
go ahead.
Let me finish the plan. All right. School systems get fixed. We're
Yep.
starting to bring businesses in now.
Yep.
The businesses keep us from having to raise taxes. The taxes don't go. How do we correct water, for example? Water is not that hard to fix right now. It's just kind of we have to renegotiate a deal that was made back when the Hoover Dam was built, and the reason it was set up that way was because we weren't a farming community at the time. The water that's going to other areas, only a couple of them are farming communities anymore, and for example, California, Southern California, they don't have a water reclamation program. They need to we need to insist that happens so that we can keep more water here. That's going to help supplement the water need for the growth. All of these things are interchanged or interacting. You know, once we get all that stuff done, Las Vegas can thrive. The other thing we have to do is we have to petition the government for our land to come back.
Yep.
Federal land is out there because when we were made a state, as a state, we couldn't manage everything we had to manage at the time, but now we can.
Yep.
So we just need to take our land back through the appropriate legal procedures, get it done. Then we have the room to expand and do the other businesses that we're doing. You know, we have a spaceport coming.
I did not know that.
Yeah, there is a guy that's put together a spaceport out towards Prim.
I did not know that.
Or not Prim, I'm sorry, out towards Sloan.
Sloan. Okay.
Sloan.
Yeah.
Great idea. It goes along with
Yeah.
the aerospace company that's here.
So
But
education
is our key.
I understand. Education is certainly a very important topic, and I appreciate that. And by the way, I don't necessarily disagree with anything you brought up. But when I think of the major issues, and then that's one of them, that Americans want to talk about today, certainly a woman's right to choose is a big topic. I would also, listen, there are a lot of people in this country living paycheck to paycheck. What are we going to do about inflation? Maternity leave is a big, gun violence. I want to hear more solutions. I want to hear from the Republican Party in general, and I'm just not getting that. How do we get there? I hear so many. Let's just talk about the gun violence.
Sure.
You talk and violence in general, but
okay. Well, let's
gun violence is at an all-time high in this country.
It is,
and I don't hear. You can disagree with Democrats on some of their, but at least they're trying to come up with solutions. After a school shooting, I see Johnson. Let's just pray, okay? Let me tell you something. If you want to go home and pray every day, or if you want to pray to God 24 hours a day, it's not going to stop gun violence.
Well,
I want to hear real solutions from Republicans. I'm just not hearing any.
A couple of weeks ago, a friend of mine got shot.
I'm sorry to hear that.
And it was a very unfortunate situation, but there was nothing anybody could have done to stop it. Nothing. Everybody tried. Everybody put in the effort to do something. It came down to basically, him versus the police. And it was unfortunate. He's still alive, thank God. And yeah, I prayed for him several times. I mean, he's a friend. He's the guy that taught me to be a fireman. So yeah, I watch that kind of stuff, but then I look at it like this too, and I've said this to you before. My fiance is 5'3". You're 6'1", right?
Six
Six
feet.
yeah.
Yeah, that's being generous.
Yeah, I mean, you're a big guy coming into my house in the middle of the night and it's dark. I want her to have every opportunity to survive because I want to come home to her, and I don't care about the bad guys coming in.
And I don't think there's any Democrats out there that would disagree with you on that. I really don't.
But when it comes to violence,
yeah,
15 guys take on one kid last week and kill him in a parking lot. The governor's education bill would have given extra security. It would have given extra materials in the classroom, more money to the teachers, more money for the school police. It could have been avoided.
I don't disagree with you, but in specifically talking about gun violence,
and in the violence sector,
yeah,
it's coming down to some simple things. There is a lack of respect for people in general. There's a lack of respect for authority, and we've done it to ourselves. We've done it to ourselves. When you go into a schoolroom, who's in charge in the schoolroom? It's not the teacher anymore.
Yeah,
it's the students. When we go shopping, a shoplifter goes in and walks out with a shopping cart full of TVs or
I get that. I get what you're saying. The lack of respect, the violence throughout the country. I don't disagree.
Yeah, and so that person goes through the front door and the security guard tries to stop them, and they start beating up on the security guard.
I want everyone to have the right to defend themselves with a gun, if that's your point. But with that being said, what do we do when gun violence is at an all-time high? What can we do? What can we implement? I feel like there's a lot of Republicans out there, again, that care more about their A+ rating from the NRA than actually coming up with reasonable solutions and working with Democrats. Doesn't mean you always have to agree with a Democrat. And I get what you're saying. We have a lack of respect.
And I have no problem with a cooling off period. Absolutely not.
Red flag laws you're referring
to. Well, not red flags, but just a cooling off period. If you want to go get a gun, make sure you have the training to use it.
With no training at all, buying a bunch of AR-15s and thousands of rounds of ammunition.
Well, that just goes back. Well, that's the Texas shooting we talked about before, and again, should have had a cool-off time, should have had some kind of lesson. To get even just for the CCW, if you're going to get a CCW, you got to A, know how to shoot it, B, know how to take it apart, and C, at least hit the target. Okay, that's minimum standard training. If you take the gun home and you don't clear it and you start to clean it and it goes off, well, guess what? You're an idiot. Because you didn't take the training. And I'm sorry, I'm very hard about that.
I don't disagree with you, but I hear a lot of people on the right say that more guns make us safer. Do you agree with that?
I don't care how many guns you own. It's your right. If you're not a prohibited person, it's your right.
Do you think more guns in this country make us safer?
I think the guns we have are keeping the bad guys out. I think that we're looking at people like China and the others, that are looking at us going, you know what, we'll never invade. And I've heard this quote from several of them now in different forms. But if we go to America, we cannot win. And it's
so if you're
because
talking about
somebody
war
has a gun
and
every other house.
If you're talking about war and defending ourselves, I agree with you. I just don't think that, and I think the evidence is proof is in the pudding that the more weaponry we have in this country, I think somewhere along the lines of about 140 guns per 100 people in this country, the more guns we have, we're not more safe. In fact, I would say to the contrary, the more gun violence we have in this country, I think we're a country that is obsessed with guns. I'm not saying people like you and your lovely fiance don't have a right to defend themselves. Of course you do. I would never want to take that right away from you. All I'm saying is we need to have mandatory training. I think it should be 18,
I don't disagree with
18 to 21.
training,
I think we need to have stronger red flag laws on the books, and I think we need an assault weapons
I don't
ban.
agree with the red flag laws, but I do agree, they should have a cool-off period.
Let's talk about red flag laws.
Okay.
Let me give you an example. In some states in this country, if a husband leaves a threatening voicemail to his wife, says, I'm going to kill you tonight, I'm going to go buy a gun. Now, that's against the law. That person would go to jail for a day, but then the next day when that person is released from jail, in some states in this country, they're allowed to purchase a gun.
Right.
It's a case-by-case basis. On the other side, if your neighbor doesn't like you, they shouldn't be allowed to just call the police and say he threatened my life, and then they take all your guns away either. But, right, so I'm with you on that. But we have to strengthen our red flag laws, and it's a case-by-case basis. If you threaten the life of somebody else and there's full-blown proof of it on a voicemail, you shouldn't be allowed.
Then you become an ineligible person.
Well, yeah, I agree. We agree.
Communicating a threat.
That's what I mean by red flag
Whether
laws.
it's a gun, a knife, a
Right.
car, a bulldozer.
Right.
It's against the
The
law.
Parkland shooter the police were called to his place over 50 times. He was still
you know,
allowed to have a gun.
Fertilizer truck, a truck
Yeah.
full of fertilizer.
Yeah.
In Oklahoma. It's that communicating a threat is a big thing. It's a big sign, and I hate to use that term red flag, but
I think we agree then, though, that you have to strengthen the red flag laws to a case-by-case basis to be logical. I'm not saying anybody can just call somebody and then they take their guns away, but I think that's another issue that we need to.
There's a whole lot that still needs to be unpacked, and especially there's cases where if a veteran calls the VA and asks for psychiatric care,
Right.
They're going to send people out and take his guns, and he might not. It might just be feeling bad because he lost his dog,
Right.
or he went through a tough divorce.
That's what I mean by case-by-case
and
basis.
so
right.
we have to really be careful it's not to infringe on the Second Amendment in that regard, because that veteran, he spent his life stepping up for the nation.
I think there's a way of doing it without infringing. You do have the right to bear arms, but the militia needs to be a responsible militia, right? And I think that that's what we go back to. Let me ask you this in closing with this: do you think that assault weapons should be sold to the general public? Do you think we need assault weapons?
Define assault weapons.
Well, the same types of weapons that are used in so many of these mass shootings, like the October 1 shooting, these school shootings, where they have these weaponry that are used, and these weapons were not, as you know, because you use these weapons were not designed for hunting, and they weren't designed for self-defense. They were designed to kill as many people as possible in a short period of time, meaning weapons of war. No, I don't think these weapons should be sold to the general public. Law enforcement, brave men and women in uniform. They had an assault weapons ban in the early 90s. Gun violence went way down, and then it fizzled out because Republicans allowed it to fizzle out, and then gun violence started to spike back up.
I would like to have whatever gun is necessary for my soon-to-be wife to defend herself.
You're okay with like an AR-15 or?
And the reason I say that is it's because an AR-15 is not the public version is not an automatic weapon. To get an automatic weapon, you have to have a huge background investigation. You have a very specialized license.
Why are
to
people
even own
using
it.
the AR-15 for so many of these mass shootings? Why is that the weapon of choice?
It's
Why
a
does it
popular
cause
frame.
so much damage?
It's basically when you look at it, it's a large caliber 22 because it's a 2.225 225. Yeah.
If the October 1 shooter had a pistol, we wouldn't have lost over 60 people. You would agree with that, right?
Oh, I agree. He wouldn't have been able to shoot across the parking lot from
why
the
do we need
MGM.
So why do we need that weapon?
But a hunting rifle could do the same thing.
But you don't need a hunting rifle. You don't
If
need an
if you
AR-15
get up there
to
with
shoot a
the
deer.
old cowboy 30-30 crank it up kind of rifle, he could have shot everybody in that parking lot same way. So it's not the gun. It goes back into mental health issues. It goes back into the person.
If it's a mental health issue, then why is it there are mentally ill people all over the world, but we have this problem here in this country if it's mentally ill people?
Well, and you see the violence is not just contained to guns.
Right.
You go over to England, they're having a knife ban.
Yeah,
You
but
can't-
is
you
that
can't
a
have
fair
a-
equivalency? A knife to a gun? When was the last
It's the
time
same
somebody
level
with
of violence.
When was the last time somebody with a knife in this country or even in the world killed over 60 people with a knife? You know that's not. Come on. That's not a fair equivalency.
It's the violence is on the rise, though. That's the problem. It's the violence.
Violence
itself.
is on the rise.
When-
Gun
why
violence
why is the violence on the rise? Why is it continuing to go up?
Well, if we're talking about gun violence, I can tell you right now, we're a country that's infatuated with our guns. And gun responsibility is certainly a part of that. You brought that up. But we are a country that, in my opinion, is obsessed with our guns.
We're obsessed with cars, too.
But
DUI is a huge problem, and it's probably probably more responsible for more deaths than gun violence.
Well,
is.
if we talk about DUIs, that's a whole nother ball game, and I'd be with you on that one. I think we need to be stronger on DUIs. And
I can tell you right now, this is a proven nationwide fact. You go out on the street, you pull 20 cars over, you're going to find probably 9 that are impaired.
Well, that's really scary.
Isn't it?
That's really scary, and certainly
that scares me a whole lot more than somebody having a couple guns in his closet.
It doesn't scare me when somebody has a couple guns in their closet, and it does scare me. Certainly, there's a lot of people out on the streets that are driving drunk. There's no question about that. But it does scare me that there are so many people in this country that should not have guns. People that are mentally deranged, people that have no training, a young 18-year-old, 19-year-old, that has no business.
Where did he get all the money to buy it? Because he bought 2 AR-15s and 1,000 rounds or something like that. I don't remember.
You're talking
the
about the
exact number
Parkland shooter.
Where did this kid get
Uvalde
all the money?
shooter. Well, that's a good question. I don't know where they get the money.
Because
but for a couple hundred bucks, you can buy a pretty powerful weapon and a lot of artillery.
At the time, an AR-15 was at least $1,000.
Sure.
So
it's not cheap.
Yeah.
You're right about that. It's not cheap. You know what? I can't believe how fast this hour goes by.
I know, right? We get on a roll and we keep going.
We do, which is great. I always love it when you come in, Alan. You know that. All right, so Alan is running for Assembly District 5. As I mentioned, I always like to mention this because it's important. He's a veteran, a former police officer, and still currently a firefighter. Alan, I know you have an event this Thursday. It starts at 6:30.
Yep.
I didn't know there was an Arizona Charlie's Lakeside. I never even knew that.
Right
Tell me about this event.
It's right on the corner of Sahara and Durango. It's just a simple meet and greet. Come out, sit down. We'll have some refreshments. Tell me what's going on. We'll talk about it. I love to get everybody's input on it because the ultimate thing is, I'm running for the assembly, but it says Nevada, not just District 5. It's Nevada.
Right.
So it's for the state of Nevada, the people of Las Vegas, people of Clark County, everything that, up front. I'm there to work as a team, represent the people here. This is my home. I grew up here. I've got, now I have, once I get married, I will have 5 generations of family here, and we can do the things we need to do. Let's work together to make it happen.
Sure, I think that's the key, right? Working together.
And we don't have to agree with everything, but we do got to come up with the best plan. I've got some pretty good plans, and I think, I've shared some of them with you.
Sure.
And I think we agree on a lot of things, especially when it comes to education and maybe a future for Nevada.
Absolutely. We probably don't agree when it comes to some Donald Trump stuff. But
and that's the thing. That's the good part. We're allowed to disagree.
That's always
the nature
important.
of America.
Absolutely. It's what makes America great, and I always appreciate having these conversations with you. And as I said before, somebody who served the country and a thing or two about saving lives and the value of life. You save lives every day. You're still a firefighter. So I always will respect that about you and appreciate that about you. And I recommend anybody come out and meet you on Thursday, and they can talk to you. Any questions, concerns, and you're willing to talk to anybody. You even talk to me. So what does that say? What does that say right there?
We have some great spirited debates.
Yes,
and I
absolutely.
think, and I know I've said this before. I saw a movie, it was... I think it was Pandemic or something. I can't remember what the name was. So they had the Israelis. They had the rule of 9. You had 9 guys in the room, or 10 guys in the room rather, and every one of them agreed. But the 10th one better come up with a different solution because it might be the better one.
Alan, you're always welcome back anytime. You know that. Always a pleasure having you here. I wish you good luck in your campaign. It's going to be an interesting next year, and you're welcome back anytime. Alan Bigelow, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for Justin. And we'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place. Well, not the same time. I will be here on time tomorrow at noon. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Have a good day.